CJ are married, y'all.
We are married.
They is married. Girl, show them that ring again. Show them that ring again. Yes! Okay.
He put a ring on it.
He put a ring on it. You like me? Oh, okay.
I'm not Beyonce.
Wait, there's nothing.
You my Beyonce though.
oh, wait a minute.
Hey,
Hey, what's happening? Okay. So, this is a topic that is really near and true to my heart, and I know Traci and I have had many conversations about this. I'm going to ask a question. I'm going to get into it, but I'm going to ask them a question first, and you'll see why this topic is so hot to me. But we'll come back to that one. It's hot. So I want you guys to tell me, as you know, separately a little bit, how you guys grew up, where you guys grew up, what your siblings, what your family looked like, how they be like, man.
Me first. I'll go first. I grew up in Kansas City, Kansas. Nuclear family. My parents are still married. They just celebrated 50 years last year. Yeah.
Yes.
No small
praise them. Can we have a small praise break?
Come on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So, grew up in Kansas City, Kansas. I have an older sister and a twin brother. And I think from that perspective, it was normal. We all lived together and all those good things. I think, I don't have a sort of a hard luck story about any of those things. So a pretty regular suburban upbringing. My mother is a teacher. My dad worked at an Army ammunition plant and grew up in church. St. Peter CME Church. St. Peter. Yes. On the corner of 8th and Oakland in Kansas City, Kansas.
In the name.
So
was that traditional CME or was that our type of CME?
It was traditional CME, and I'm going to tell you a quick story, which is so funny. My brother came to visit me one time at Christian Chapel, and literally months later, we're at a family reunion, and another cousin of ours, who just at the time happened to be a CME pastor too, and somebody asked the church I went to, and at the time I was at Christian Chapel, and he was like, well, she goes to the CME church. Why my brother looked at me, he was like, that was the CME church.
Yeah, because we don't.
He ain't know.
Traci, tell them what a traditional CME. I'm painting a picture for y'all. What is a traditional CME church?
I say traditional. Choir rocks in, say the Apostles' Creed every Sunday. You sing from the hymnal. I sang in the choir. I was a junior usher. I was a Girl Scout, member of the CYF, Christian Youth Fellowship.
Now, was this a small church or a big church?
I would say, compared to today's standards, small church.
Okay.
Like probably around, 75. And I'm bad at estimating numbers of people. Let me say that. But what do you think, 500 to 700? It was very much at the time when I was growing up.
Not Christian Chapel. She's talking about
the church
St. Peter. St. Peter.
When I was growing up, and it was a family church, so it was several families of people, and you just kind of knew each other. A lot of my father's brothers went there, and their kids, and all of that, and so very. Sunday school. My mother was the superintendent of Vacation Bible School.
Right.
That was
tradition.
It was, and it was a fairly large part of our family life.
Right.
Daddy on the steward board, mama's a stewardess.
So, for those of y'all that out there in Candyology land, I'm a PK. We're gonna talk about that in a minute.
Oh. He is as well. Yeah. I don't know if you knew that. He is too.
No, I didn't know that part. No. So, CJ, tell us what how did you grow up, sir?
All right.
Tell us.
I'm originally from Greenville, North Carolina. My dad is a pastor. My mom is a church secretary. My brother played the drums. Me and my sister kind of sang in the choir. anytime there was some type of child youth service or something, I had to give the pastor his church offering and stuff like that. So I always had a mouthpiece, so speaking became very natural to me. In terms of my family, I'm the oldest of three. I have a younger brother and a younger sister. My brother is in ministry at a church in Columbia as well. So, a lot of rules. I grew up Pentecostal, so, very strict.
Over here.
Yeah, I had a very strict upbringing, but it lended me to be the type of man that I am now to Traci, because I have a lot of integrity, and I learned from other men. Like, I'm gonna share this with people who know me. My big brother Michael Dixon had a very influential, hand on my development as a young adult. He showed me what manhood was about. He went off to college. He's a noob. Shout out to all the noobs out there. It was a thing where, like, I saw positive. Like, I had a very, my pastor. I still talk to him now, and I'm in Dallas, so I had very strong influences as a man.
Did you say your parents are still together?
Yeah, they've been together for 41 years in December.
Yes! So we got 50 years here.
Yeah.
We got 41 years here.
Yeah.
So that's over 91 years of experience.
Right.
Oh, wow.
And the thing that, that lends for me and Traci to exist is our upbringings were similar. And we can talk about things, and I can tell a joke or crack a joke, which most people don't know that about me. I'm a clown. But, I can say certain things, and she knows exactly what I mean when I say it, and I don't have to explain it, from being with someone who had maybe a different experience.
Right. So let me ask you guys this. What was discipline like in the household?
For me, because my mother, like I said, was a teacher. And so she often had to be, she taught high school, so she usually had to be out the house before we did. So my father worked nights so that he could get us off to school, and that she would be there with us in the evenings. So I would say that she handled the bulk of the discipline, which I don't think is uncommon. A lot of times the mother tends to be the primary disciplinarian. But, like, I think if she ever felt like she needed some reinforcement,
Daddy.
I'm bringing it. I'm gonna tell you, Daddy.
Right.
So, but I don't feel like it was just a whooping for every little thing. Now, don't get me wrong. She had a house shoe named Cujo.
Cujo.
Yeah, it was the right one. The right house shoe. Because she said, "I'm not gonna hurt my hand whooping y'all." But I love my mother. And so, but I don't feel like it was ever gratuitous or arbitrary. Like, if I was getting it, I knew why.
So, but let me let CJ answer that question. So, what was the discipline like in your household?
Well, my mom did primarily all the discipline. My dad stepped in if it was like a extreme case or something. I was the oldest, so I always had to kind of look after my brother and my sister. My brother, on the other hand, he always had something going on, and we just had to kind of watch each other back, so that we didn't get spanked. Me and my brother were closer than, let's say, me and my sister. My sister was a lot younger, so she was spoiled. She never got spankings and stuff like that. I can count on one hand how many times she got disciplined. Whereas me and my brother, we always had something going on, and we was always like plotting.
But them daggone
boys. So my mom was very hands-on, very hands-on, and my dad had a belt that had like a name for it. I can't remember what the name was, but if we heard that jingling, we were like, oh, it's about to get real.
It's about to go down.
But my mom was a teacher too, and my dad.
Really similar.
Yeah, so she was very hands-on with me and my brother. I'm the student that I grew into being in college because my mom stayed on my academics, and I graduated with honors and all that kind of stuff. And I always, say my parents are the reason why I'm married now. And I'm gonna throw this in here because you probably didn't know this, but I've been married twice.
Yes, I did know that. I did.
Okay,
and
so
we're going to get to that
yeah,
too.
I've been married twice, so you know, I learned some things through experience. You know, stuff that works and stuff that doesn't work.
So let me go ahead and ask you this then. So in your households, how did you talk about sex? Or did you talk about sex?
Growing up,
growing up.
I don't really remember ever having I do remember asking my mother one time. I was like, so have you ever? Because I was young enough to where I did not realize that that's how children were created. And I was like, have you ever done that? And she was like, where do you think you came from? And I was
Her mom is very honest and blunt.
I said, oh, okay.
But y'all never had those where did babies
We
come
did not do
from?
birds and the bees. No.
So, wait, hold on.
But you know how they have at least a talk in school. So that's.
So you didn't come home with no questions? No? Nothing? Not even inquisitive at all?
Nah, I just was like, all right.
That's funny to me. CJ, so what was did you have a conversation?
I didn't have a conversation with my parents per se, but like my grandfather was in my life, you know, all the way up until when I got to college, and he passed in 2001. But I would have conversations with him. Like I said, my big brother Michael Dixon, I could have real talk with him. He was a pastor as well, so you know, he said, look, you know, if you got questions or you want to know something, you know, just shoot from the hip. And I was honest with him. I was like, look, you know, how does this work? Like, you know, what am I doing? You know, now that
What age was this?
This was probably about 14, 15.
Okay.
So, you know, him, and then I have, on my mom's side, all my uncles weren't in the church either. So, you know, if we wanted to see some magazines or something like that, you could get them from them. But, you know, for the most part, I didn't talk to my parents about it. It wasn't until I got to be married that I started really having conversation with my pops.
Okay.
And that's when it became more helpful, I think. You know.
So when you were married, that's when you had the first marriage?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
First marriage. And I even have conversations with my pops now, like, you know, and we're more friends now because I had, like, when I was growing up, my dad, he was harder on me than he was the other two. And so, you know, I didn't understand why, but now that I'm an adult and I'm reflecting, you know, I had a responsibility. And so, you know, and luckily I just have one child out of the 3 marriages. So, and me and her going to be starting.
Did you say 3?
This is my third marriage. This is my third marriage.
Oh, yeah. No, I thought it was just 2.
No, this is
okay, wait, rewind. Okay, so tell me how you got to the first one.
The first one was I was in college, and I had kind of broken up with my college sweetheart. We had a kind of rough break, and the girl who I was serving with in the military, because I was in the Navy while I was in college, her name was Lakeisha Carney. Me and her were always cool, and you know, she should have stayed my friend. That's the first thing, you know.
Wait, so let's rewind. Had you had sex before?
Yeah, I had let me back up. My first sexual experience was in college.
Okay.
I was a sophomore at East Carolina, and the girl who I lost my virginity to, I'm like, man, like,
don't say her name.
And but
keep everybody anonymous.
No, I got you. Yeah, that's what I plan on doing. But the girl I lost my virginity to, her dad and my dad are friends, and they don't even know we got that kind of connection. You know, so under normal pretenses, I think if I was the man that I am now, back then, I probably would have never dated her. You know, knowing what I know now.
A lot of people though.
Yeah. But my second marriage was I took my time because I was single for a while before I got married again, and I just married her because she was fine.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Wait.
She was fine.
Wait. Okay. So we talking about 36, 37? I mean, what we
Well,
talking about? What we talking about?
she
What's
was
your
like
version of fine?
Well, that version of me was like she was like a model type chick. She was like 5'9", maybe 125, 130 pounds.
I ain't weighed that since I passed it on.
Hello, thank you.
But
Great,
I say that to say because that's where I was at that time.
Right.
Like, my first wife wasn't as a looker as she was. But, the thing that we had that brought us together where we could rely on, I could trust her at that time. But,
So, did y'all have sex before marriage?
No, not my first wife. No, we didn't. Matter of fact, we had sex on our wedding night.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Huh. Which is gonna bring us to
Which I'm the only person she had done that with. Like, everybody else was like, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What about the second one though?
The second one,
I had to take a test drive. I had to make sure. I had to be sure.
So crazy.
So is that the one you have a child with?
No,
that's
no,
the first
no.
one.
The first, my first wife, Keisha, she has my son. So, me and her still good friends now. Like, we get along better now that we're not married than we did when we were together. So, but I love her for the simple fact that she gave me a son, and I think that was really the reason for us coming together was to have my son. My son looks just like me. This is my little mini me. So, yeah.
He's so cute.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Okay. So the first one was virgin.
Yeah.
The second one y'all had to test drive.
Yeah.
Well, no, she wasn't.
Who? Danielle? Yeah, me
No.
and her. Who?
Are you asking if his first wife was a virgin?
No, she wasn't.
Oh, but y'all hadn't had.
No, we had.
Oh, but y'all hadn't had sex.
They had not.
No,
but
we
they,
waited until
they
we
had
got married.
separately, but not together.
Not together, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, that makes more sense now. So the second one you got to test drive. Okay. How long were these marriages?
My first marriage was 5 years. My second one was like
6 months.
no.
Because I'm thinking you mad because she was fine. She fine.
No, she
last
couldn't
long.
cook either.
Oh!
Another problem.
Oh!
But for all the men out there, man, if you can't boil water, that's a dilemma. But my second marriage, we were together for maybe 2 years.
Okay.
And yeah, that's a long story too. Boy, God knows. She put me through the most trouble. She was the finest, probably. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. It's usually the finals.
Yeah,
So, Traci,
Yeah.
CJ, tell me your love story.
You want me to start or?
Or what would you like, baby?
Let me start off and then you just interject. How about that?
Yes, love it.
All right.
Go.
Okay, so this is a
Remember
story.
when you thought he wasn't going to be the topic?
Nah, I am the topic. I am. I love mouth of the South. Anyway, I was on Plenty of Fish, and she was on Plenty of Fish. That's where we met. And I was actually sent messages out to her, and then this other girl that looked very similar to her, locks, glasses, everything. So I didn't confuse them. I thought I would, but I made it a fact that I did confuse them. So let me that be my disclaimer. But so we was on Plenty of Fish, and I had a very specific profile. Like I put a lot of content, and I wanted it that way because I wanted people to read. Because I was at a point where I had even said before I met Traci that I wasn't going to get married again. I wanted to be single, but I wanted to date and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, I reached out to the first girl who looked a lot like my wife now, and she said, "You look like you copy and paste your profile." So I'm like, okay, you already starting out wrong. Like, you know, like I'm about to shut this down real quick. But you know, I was intrigued, so I wanted to talk to her, and she just was really combative. You know, really telling me what to do, like she was my mama or something. I was like, nah. So I messaged Traci, and you know, we decided to do like a Skype type thing. And so,
but it was bootleg Skype.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, what's bootleg Skype?
Girl, I don't even remember the name
It's
of that
like-
raggedy app. I was like, can we get on Skype, please? Because whatever this, there was such a long delay between the video and the
It
audio.
didn't sync with
Was it
OS.
Android?
Yeah, it was an Android.
And I
system.
have an
I know
iPhone.
I know what that app is. I can't think of the name of it.
Girl.
It's horrible.
Now, what I will say, may I introduce?
Go ahead.
All right. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's cool.
So from my end, I actually had a coworker talk me into doing a profile, and I was like, all right, whatever. And I was really about to get off. I had the profile for, I don't know, the better part of a year, and it's like POF
Garbage.
is like the wild
Garbage.
west.
It's garbage.
It
Garbage.
is
Yeah.
trash.
Straight trash.
That's
why I'm not on it now.
Right. So I was like, I'm gonna find, and they intentionally make it really difficult for you to find where you go to delete your profile. But I had dug through all these layers of code and I found it. So I was about to go delete it, and I had one message left. And I was like, well, let me read the message, and then it was this guy. So
Divine intervention.
so he almost missed the boat. But yeah,
So we talked.
So we talked.
Yeah.
One of the things I will say, when he was talking about how long and detailed his profile was, it was actually kind of refreshing, because a lot of people would, like, every little question, they'd be like, ask me. And I'm like, I don't know if I even want to ask you, because this is like basic information to know if I'm even going to be wasting my time.
And let me say this: I'm very transparent about most things. You know, I'm very much an open book. Like, you know, if you want to know something, just ask me. If I don't tell you, it doesn't mean that I won't tell you. It just means it'll
not
come
right now.
eventually.
Yeah, like I don't feel like it's
or
time
you know,
now.
maybe we need to build a little more before we get to that point. But I'm very transparent. I had a lot of useful information that would create a conversation based on what I put up there. And so with her, that's what the case was.
So the reason we ended up on that bootleg Skype really was a great, it actually really endeared me to him at first. It was a refreshing thing, because he did not want to ask me out over the phone. He wanted me to be able to see him.
Oh, that's so sweet.
So that's why we
That's so sweet.
but as soon as we got the arrangements out the way, I was like, can you just call me back now? Because this video was not.
So where did y'all go first?
We went to
Papa
Papa
Do's.
Do's. And can I grab this?
Take it away.
Okay. All right, so
Y'all so cute.
I'm always early for everything. And I never forget the night that I took her out was on October the 15th, 2015.
And it was raining.
It
was raining.
It was raining
And
like
he kept
today.
calling and texting me to make sure that I still came.
Right, because I knew she was about.
I was like, oh, it's raining.
Yeah. So I get to Papa Do's early, and I go in there and I talk to the people, because I'm very much a face-to-face type of person. So, you know, I went shopping, and I came with gifts on our first date.
That's my kind of man.
And I remember this because he texted me. He was like, can you come a little early? Because I got a presentation. And I was like, a presentation?
She thought it was like a
What you talking about, a PowerPoint? Like, I didn't know what. And I called my sister over there. I said, girl, he talking about this presentation. Girl, I don't know what.
Right.
He got handouts. I don't know.
Right. But I'm very much a detail. I'm very meticulous about things. So what I wanted her to know that, you know, going out with me was not a mistake, and that if it didn't work, it wasn't because I didn't put my best foot forward or that I didn't put any effort to it. So we get to Papa Do's, and you know, I give her what I have. Matter of fact, I park in the back of Papa Do's, and she pulls up, and I'm like, I'm in the back, you know, meet me, and you know, I got something for you. So she sits down, and I give her my stuff, and she just smiling from ear to ear.
It was a lot of stuff. It was like a big old teddy bear. Like, one of our conversations, we had talked about like what our favorite candy is. He bought me all this candy that I had said that I liked, which was a problem because I had just gotten my braces. But it was the thought that counted.
Right.
And you got me something else too. It was like a book or something in there. He got me some flowers.
Yeah, I brought flowers. Yeah.
This is my kind of day.
And I still have that box of stuff. Like after those roses. Oh, and the day before, because we had talked and he knew where I worked and everything. He brought me a bouquet of flowers and like a Whole Foods gift card.
She's now the people who are listening who know us know that my wife is healthy. She eats,
But that really was a good gift for me. I was like, because Whole Foods be whole paycheck.
I know.
So
girl.
Yeah, and so
I can't do it. Sprouts. Oh my god.
And then at the time, like I was a service connected veteran. I had just got my service connection, so I wasn't really working. I was kind of doing my own little freelance type thing. I was, an entrepreneur or whatever, and I was traveling a lot. So I had to drive in from Austin or either San Antonio to see.
Which I did not know. I didn't know he drove up from a different city to come to my date.
Yeah. So.
Some of these things I knew, some of these things I didn't know. Oh god. Thanks, Kitty. Okay, continue. I'm sorry.
All right.
So Papados.
So we get to Papados, and I didn't know this until we went on a date that she loves seafood, and I love seafood too. So we going through the menu, and I'm like a fat boy in a candy store. Like, I'm just loving every minute of it. And so she's sitting really up under me, kind of like, and I thought that was cool because she didn't know me from a can of paint. And it's like, we connected, that first night, and, I was like, man, I can see myself kind of in there. So, we was talking about the people who were in the restaurant as well, and, just conversing about that and people watching that, that's one of my things. Mm-hmm. So we was talking about that, and the food was great. I think I had, what did I have that night? I know spinach.
He's gonna try to.
Yeah, I had spinach on my plate. I remember that much. Sauteed spinach. And if I had to bet, it was probably like a 3 meat, seafood thing, like with salmon or oysters. Now I'm trying to figure out why am I eating oysters if
That's Afro.
I don't think he had the oysters because I would have been like, "What you ordering those for?"
Right.
I had three different things though. I do remember that much. So,
Like, and he don't eat no oysters.
So how long was this date? Like,
oh man, we
2 hours.
Yeah, we didn't keep track of time. Yeah, about 2.
Oh.
Okay. What is that?
This is Candyology. How can I help you? I'm sorry. Say your name again.
Shawnee B is the thing.
Hi, Shawnee B. How you doing, boo?
Good. I was watching the show.
And you had a question?
I have 2 questions actually.
Okay.
The first question will be to Traci.
All right.
She said she works in a marketing firm downtown Dallas. Are y'all hiring?
Don't answer that.
What kind of work do you do, Shawnee? No, seriously, what kind of work are you looking for?
And the second question to the gentleman, he kind of looks like a mixture between Denzel and a mixture between Miss Mark Curry and Miss Cooper. But that's not the question.
Never been told that before.
He has been married so many times. What was his foundation for proposing? Because if the first, I know the second one she was fine as wine. The first one, of course, there was the primary. The second one was just out of, probably instinct. What made him say she's the one? And what made him say, I'm going to propose again, and then now this will be the third one? Like, what set each one of these apart from a proposal? So, that's the most special occasion.
That's a good story, too.
Well,
Your first and your last.
and let me say, it was quick.
Nah, it was less than.
It was like
less
4
than a year.
months.
Yeah. Yeah,
He proposed to me 4 months after we met.
Yeah.
You heard him. 4 months, right? 4 months. But her question is, what made you propose? The first one, the second one, and now
The
Traci.
third, okay. The
First
first
time's
time,
a charm, right?
yeah, the first time, my first wife was my good friend. We were tight in a friendship way, and so I thought that was the basis of a good relationship. When she should have just stayed a friend, she should have stayed in the friend zone. Second time, I think my conscience was what brought me to the second marriage, because we were living together and I was in Atlanta, and I just thought, hey, look, we already together, so let's just make it official. Now, the difference with Traci, I knew probably well before I actually proposed that she was the type that I could marry, and that it would probably be something that would be lasting, and if we built it on the right foundation, it'd be the last time I do it again. So that's how I felt about that.
Okay, well, I mean, I definitely love a love story. That was cute how you came up with the bouquet and the teddy bear, because a lot of people don't do that anymore. They don't
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
little sensitive to when people are older. They rush. So hopefully you and Traci have a successful marriage.
Oh, thank
Traci,
you.
I'm gonna shoot you my ring today.
Did she say what kind of work you do, Shawnee?
What kind of work you do, Shawnee?
Okay.
Bye, Shawnee. Love you. We'll talk off air.
We'll talk off.
Yeah.
We'll talk off air.
right.
I know
She
Shawnee.
need to talk to my folks, because we hiring right now.
Who was your folks? Who was your folks?
I-
Go ahead and shoot your shot.
Yeah, I'm a licensed agent. I work with Assurant, and they always looking for agents, and we make a 6-figure income.
There you go, Shawnee. Anyway, we was talking about this love story, right? So a couple hours, and you got to 4 months, and 4 months.
Yeah,
4
4 months. Because I was dating with purpose. Like, I knew.
That's right. Hallelujah. Glory to the Lamb of God. Say it again. Say it again.
No, I was dating with purpose because
Hold up. I feel my health coming on. Thank you, Jesus.
No, but
Come on and fight.
she said, like, we set the proper environment for that from the beginning. Like, I knew that either I was gonna rock out with her for a lifetime, or either I was just gonna be in her life for a season, and then she was gonna find somebody else.
Right.
But I knew from our conversations, and we talked every day. Even when I wasn't in town, or if I was out of town, like, I talked to her all the time. So I knew how she stood and what her values were and what her integrity was about. Like, I knew what she was about well before I even said I do. So I wasn't surprised with anything. Like, and I know you want me to tell the story about the proposal?
Absolutely.
All right, so I'm out of town, and I come back in town, and I tell her I got a surprise for her, and I'm like, can you drive me, north on 75? And I had kind of worked it out in my head a little bit. I actually thought it was a different jewelry store where we were going to, because I knew I was going to try to get an idea as to what she liked in jewelry, because I wanted to make sure that I found exactly what, like, when I saw it, I would be like, that's it, I'm going to go ahead and buy it. And so we went to the K Jewelers in Allen, not too far from where we go to church at right now. And so I send her to go shopping, and I'm talking to the jeweler, and I'm like, I think she said she liked that one. Let me see that. And then, I pulled it out, and I looked at it, and I put it on my pinky. I was like, that's the ring. Yeah, I was like, that's the ring. So I bought the ring, and she came back, and she was still trying to figure out what was going on, because she was just like, he up to something, but she didn't know what. So we go to Cracker Barrel, which is right up the street from the Allen outlet. And so I proposed to her in Cracker Barrel.
You didn't tell me.
Girl.
Wait a minute. So let's get this from the crazy point of view.
So
Wait a minute.
you got the applause again, baby.
Wait a minute.
When I tell you I did not see it coming. So we used to, like, anytime we were riding in the car or waiting in line, like, we would just ask each other questions. It was just like a chance, like, we waiting anyway. So if you could buy an orangutan or a mongoose, what would you buy? just something weird, just get to know you questions. Because everybody needs to know that.
Right.
So we're at the table and he's like, oh, I got a question. So I'm thinking it's one of these questions and he gets down and I was like,
Wait, what? Oh.
She started like, CJ, what are you doing?
Yeah, like I started freaking out.
Yeah, I thought she was gonna have a panic attack.
I did too. So he goes into this spiel. I heard some of it.
Because at this point you're in shock.
Cause my head, I'm in shock. My head is spinning, and he's like telling me.
And I didn't know what would like. I was like, is this?
And I was silent for a long time. I don't know how long.
Did you think she was gonna say no?
Well, I didn't think she was gonna say no. I just thought she said she was gonna have to think about it, or she was gonna have to do something. I just didn't know what. You know what I mean? So I'm like, is that a yeah or is it a no or is it till later? Or,
Let's be
I'm like,
like I'm out here.
I'm out here, like and the reason why I proposed to her in Cracker Barrel because a lot of people don't know this, but I went through a bout of homelessness when I first came to Texas. Like I didn't have a place to stay, and through the help of the VA and getting treatment, I had a problem with alcohol because I was in the Navy, and every time I needed to go to sleep, I would drink. And so that's a whole nother dynamic. But Cracker Barrel was a place where the service was always good, and the people who served me at the various locations throughout Texas and from here all the way to Florida, because I kind of had a journey. I would always go and get a cup of coffee, and sometimes I didn't have the money to pay for it. And Cracker Barrel, waitress or somebody like, I got it because you're a veteran, just really vet friendly. And so it was a very familiar and comfortable place for me. So and I want to, I could be me, and not have to worry about, someone judging me or, looking at me funny because, I look like somebody who shouldn't be there or something, and, that's why it meant so much to me to propose there. And, even now, that's one of our favorite restaurants to go to for breakfast, and stuff. So.
Oh, I'm loving this story. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm loving this story. However, I have a question.
Boy, you getting all the applause. Man. I gotta step it up. All right. What else you got?
You brought up it though.
So, being that Candyology coaching services,
right?
I am a certified sexologist and intimacy and relationship coach. Let me ask this question: what was the talk about sex before you got married?
I'll take it. All right. So I will say, and when this kind of tags on to when he was talking about dating with purpose, and we've known each other for a long time, so you know me, but it was anytime I went out with a guy or whatever, he would ask me, well, what are you looking for? And I knew the answer to that question. I was like, I'm looking for the 3 P's: a priest, a protector, and a provider.
Say it again.
Priest, protector, provider. That's what I needed.
Okay.
So, and I always, I would be very honest with I was like, if I choose to marry, it won't be because I need something other than your companionship, your support, your love. I won't marry because I need somebody to break me off something to get my hair done. I can buy my own dinner.
Right. Do her own hair.
Yeah, I can do my own hair.
Right.
I can buy my own dinner.
Right.
So it's not that. So I was looking for somebody to fulfill some of those non-tangible roles.
Can I jump in for a second? Can I jump in? I think her father had the biggest influence or impact on her life, and I'm gonna say this for this reason. Me and her father are a lot alike, in a good way. Not because I'm trying to win her over or all that fake stuff. Like we intrinsically in our core and the fiber and the threads of who we are. Me and him are a lot alike, and we agree on things. And it's like I know we ain't talked about it because my people not from Kansas City at all.
Right.
But he served in the military. I served in the military. He's a family man. I'm a family man. We're both clowns. Me and him she can leave me at the house with him and we Gucci. We just fine. So I say that to say, like, that shaped what she was looking for in someone like myself. And I see a lot of her and my mom just on steroids in some ways because, you know, like I said, my family was very, you know, strict and, you know, very, you know, straight-laced. And so my wife is a lot of the creativity that I've been missing in my life. And so it's a thing where, like, I'm very analytical and I'm very numbers-driven. And my wife is more creative, you know, just things that I'm not. Simply, I'm just not those things. But it's not a thing where you, like, in kindergarten and first grade, you're not like me, so I don't like you. You know, it's a thing where, like, that complements who I am as a man. I can be myself and all the strengths and weaknesses that I have. And I'm going to tell a lot of the men out here, you need somebody who's going to protect your vital organs. She's like the rib cage to who I am as a man. And I tell the whole world. I tell the whole world that because I'm not bashful or afraid to say that. Like, I'm secure in my manhood because I've been around real men. Ain't nothing wishy-washy about my view and my approach to.
So it wasn't a problem to not have sex.
No. So when I made it clear that I was not interested in premarital sex, he was like, "Cool."
Straight like that.
Cool. He never pressured me. He never pressured me. You know, I think
we still were close.
We did talk about it. You know, he was like, you
so
know.
Did y'all kiss? Did you touch? Did you rub anything at all?
We kissed.
Okay.
Yeah, we hugged and you know,
but that
held
was it.
hands.
Yeah, we would, you know, get hugged up on the couch and watch TV.
You know, I rub her feet.
Okay.
You know, so it wasn't a thing where it was like,
nice.
you know,
That's a fetish. Anyways, continue.
But, you know, I knew what I was working with. Like, we had clear lines of communication about, all right, this is what I can do and this is what I can't do. This is what, you know, I accept and this is what I want to accept. And it never was an issue because I had so much bad. Like, yo, you look for a refreshing drink of water when you with something that's real. Like, you don't want to chance that with something that's this maybe a possibility, like you're playing cards or something like that. No, I knew what I was working with and what the end goal was. So, you know, I just accepted that, and I was like, look, that's really how I feel about it anyway in my core.
But Traci, did you think it was going to be an issue though, or did you?
I did because it had been an issue for me in the past.
Because you were a virgin.
I was a virgin.
Correct. So I just want to make sure that
all
our listeners realize this.
I was
a virgin
all the way up
until she got
until I got married.
But the thing
and
that,
I was 37. I was
37.
Yeah.
37.
37 years old.
Okay. So it's possible.
With all that, I do want to say it's definitely possible. Also, and like I said, I'm not one to judge anybody's life decisions. But I will say to anybody who's listening, male or female, if that is something that's important to you, please don't feel like you have to let go of that standard just to have somebody.
Because it's not really worth it in the end.
I was never willing to let go of the standard. There were times where I felt like that meant I may not have somebody. But I know that there are some people who are not okay with that.
Right.
And so I want to encourage somebody that if it's important to you, there is somebody who will respect that and honor that, and they will wait for you.
And why was it so important?
Why was it so important?
What was the basis for it?
I feel like for me, it was my relationship with God. And I never, again, like I told you, we really didn't talk about it one way or the other in my household. So it was never necessarily, I never felt like it was taboo.
Right.
I just never asked about it. I never wanted to talk to my parents about it. I really never talked to my friends about it.
And you said something so key off air to me about, you didn't know what you were missing.
Right. So yeah, in the wait, if you will.
Wait.
So we got married exactly 18 months after we met. And so, and I know a lot of people might be like, 18 months, God. But yes, we waited 18 months.
And was that a struggle for you in any way?
For me,
Or
not
CJ.
so much. Because to your point, like I had said before, I was like, it's hard to miss something that you've never had. For him, obviously, he had been married before.
Can I say something?
But he said no.
Well, it's like this, and
So.
some men may agree or disagree with me, women as well. When you marry, you get a sex cycle where you used to things going for you physically, physically, giving off those pheromones or all that energy and stuff like that. So that was, I had already accepted that adjustment after I had gotten divorced. So I'm just gonna be honest with you. You do what you got to do,
right?
I love myself, so I didn't put myself in a situation where I was reckless and just out here in these streets,
right?
Like that. Even though from a physical standpoint, I was, because I was living out of hotels and stuff, and couldn't get a apartment, couldn't buy a home or nothing. Which thank God he turned all that stuff around for me.
Absolutely.
And I think, God, no, I hear you right now, Lord. What I want to say is, when you put God first in your marriage and in your approach to someone who you're considering, he would give you all those things.
There you go.
If you are patient and you take your time. I think people, we were talking about this on the way, is people want instant grits, and I like home cooked meals.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so, so I was willing to wait because I felt like God was going to bless me with her for the rest of my life. So what's there to fight or argue about? Like, it's her body. And, I respect her respecting God and her vow to, live a chaste life. And so, I fit in, it wasn't a problem. Like, we never argued about it. We never,
yes, Lord.
So, I think that's why, I have a partner now. Like, I have a soulmate, like Jay said, what is a menage a trois when you got a soulmate? Like,
hello?
I'm not about to jeopardize my soulmate over something that petty that I'm going to get for the rest of my life anyway.
So tell me about this rest of the life journey though. So we married now. We married now. Yeah. So how has your mindset changed since you've been married? Like, was it worth the wait? Yes, one. And then two, have you guys struggled with anything as far as sex goes?
I mean, I would say there was definitely a learning curve. If I can be honest. But I feel like it's probably the learning curve that anybody has to go through. I just took mine a lot later than a lot of folks. But again, God blessed me with a patient husband.
Patience is a virtue.
So CJ, let's ask you the same question.
Repeat it for me again.
So okay, it was a wait.
Yes.
So what's the learning curve been? How have you had any struggles with, since she was a virgin, leading?
Well, the way I looked at it was, like I said, she's my soulmate, my partner. So I walked it out with her. And I exercise a lot of patience. I wasn't trying to run a marathon. I wasn't trying to run a sprint. I was just like, look, we're going to take it one thing at a time. Like, you don't eat an elephant all at one time. You eat it one bite at a time. Right. So, every day or every week or whatever the case was when we had sex, it was a moment for me to express my love to her and teach her something, because that's my role. I tend to be a little more alpha in this situation, whereas previously I was more submissive in previous relationship because they had more experience than I did. So the roles have kind of reversed and flipped, and that's cool because I love my wife, and I don't want to withhold anything good from her. So I welcome questions. I'm an open book with her. I'm not an open book with everybody.
Right.
So that's the important thing.
So would say that the communication was probably the key thing?
Yeah.
We've had communication from like the beginning because, you know, like I said, I lived in a different city than she was. So, you know, we talked about everything. Like nothing was off topic really, you know, and if I had a legit concern about something or a problem with anything, the important thing in relationship is communicating positively, not being negative or, you know, detrimental.
Like telling somebody what they always do wrong.
Yeah, like that's not the approach that you have to take. You have to finesse it.
And that's something I definitely tell with my coaching clients. You have to focus on you. You can't always focus on the other person because what you gotta fix is you first, and then you can bring your other things out. You know, if I know that I'm arguing about X, Y, and Z, well, what part of X, Y, and Z was me though?
Exactly.
So I love that.
Exactly.
The communication factor. So is there anything that's like off limits that, you know, that you would want her to do that you don't have to tell me, but I'm just saying, like, is there anything off limits that you've come up with and said, babe, can we do this, that she won't try? No.
My wife is very concerned about me first. So if it's something that I need for her to do or would like for her to do, she ends up talking about it or bringing it up to me before I even do that, because that's the type of relationship we have with one another. You know, where, you know, God will speak to her heart about something that I'm dealing with, and, you know, she'll bring it up and I won't even have to ask her.
So, CJ, what do you think about vibrating panties?
Vibrating panties. First of all, I want to see how they work. So they don't break nothing.
So, you know, I am a bedroom candy consultant. And we have these beautiful panties. They are one size fits all. You see they adjust on the sides, right?
Yeah.
But in this lovely, lovely panty, there's a vibrator, okay? And I turn it on like this. There's a little button at the bottom. And if you heard it, it just came on, right? But then, and I'll hand these to you, but then there is a remote. And it should have just flashed. And is it moving at all?
Yeah.
Okay. So,
Oh, okay.
if you notice,
Oh, okay.
CJ, look at me. If you notice, there's a remote in my hand. And if you can put it up to the microphone so the other people can hear it, as I'm speaking, it is vibrating to my voice. And it works 30 feet away. So she can be in the kitchen and you can be in the bathroom and you can be talking to it or playing music to it, and it continues to vibrate and she's having a little fun in her panties. Yeah, and getting ready for you. And it's still going. You can also, like I said, you can put it up to your music and you can make it vibrate. It pulsates from the music.
Oh,
It should
okay.
still, did you turn it on?
It'll follow the beat. No,
Oh,
it's
there you
still
go.
on. Yeah,
There you go. Yeah, you feel it? You
Yeah,
see
it's
it?
about to come out.
There's also a button that you can press that just makes it constantly pulsate
Okay.
instead of to your voice
Okay.
or to the music.
Right.
Or another one that it actually
Yes.
just press.
Like
And then
bullshit. Yeah.
Okay.
This is probably one of my best sellers as a couples toy right now.
Right.
For those that want to, you know, spice up their relationship just a little bit, I always recommend this because it's the art of, it encompasses the art of foreplay too.
Right. Right.
Because you can be in a whole nother room and you're like, babe, wait a minute!
Right.
Wait! And yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And I always pair it with our lovely Ignite Me. Ignite Me is a clitoral stimulation gel. And it takes about 30 seconds to work. And when you rub it in, it's like a warm peppermint patty. And if you combination with this and
That is.
it's a happiness in a bottle and in the panties. Okay.
In the bottle and in the pen.
Yeah, in the panties.
There's happiness all over the place.
There's definitely happiness all over the place. So my question to you guys is, you know, I just showed y'all that little little toy, right? So is that something that, you would be willing to try to spice up your relationship?
Yeah, that's pretty dope.
I know it is.
When you showed him that before,
Yeah,
the light in his eyes.
I had a different response.
The light bulb went off.
I saw the light in his eyes.
I cannot, Marie. Hold on, I'm sorry, y'all.
You good?
But so it's something that I recommend all the time to couples that want to do some things, just spice it up just a little bit, and explore some things. The other thing that's on the table too, though. And Traci, you might not need these right now.
Oh, the Kegel thing.
The Kegel balls, okay? They're Kegel balls. Woo! Kegel balls. So these go in kind of like a tampon though, and you strengthen, contract and release on these, and it grows your orgasms. And after you have a baby, I know we was talking about kids earlier, after you have a baby, it'll strengthen your pelvic wall so that your bladder doesn't leak and all that jazz.
Oh, that sounds.
So, twofold. Strengthen the orgasms and strengthen your pelvic wall so your bladder is controlled. So, they're wonderful. They're weighted. So, you can go 1 dot, 2 dot, 3 dot, 4 dot. And the more, if you do this without any weights, you can strengthen yourself. But if you add the weight to it, it strengthens it faster, right?
Yeah.
That's why we have weighted Kegel balls. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah. One absolutely wonderful thing. So, when you're ready.
Want me to call you?
But let me ask you guys this one last question. What do you think is the key to keeping your life healthy? I mean, your relationship healthy?
Just one thing?
You can say multiples. All kinds of multiples.
I think for us, I think the number one thing, at least in my point of view, is that we agree on God. We are equally yoked.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And not just when it comes to sexual things, but this is my best friend. This is my brother in Christ. This is my lover. This is my husband. This is my dude. Mm-hmm. I always tell him, I'm like, you're my person.
Right. That's true.
I say, you're my person. And so I think the biggest thing is that we agree on Christ. Mm-hmm. So one thing we have recently done is we started taking communion in our home together.
I love that.
Every week. And we really saw a difference. When you say almost immediately.
The same week that we started, literally Monday or Wednesday of the following.
Yeah, and just all aspects, professionally, spiritually,
financially,
and we just invited God into we told him there was no room in our home where he was not welcome, and that includes in our bedroom.
Right.
That's true.
And I feel like that is probably the most meaningful aspect of our relationship for me. I love that we can go to church and serve together. He is on the security team. I'm in the choir. We both, doing our thing. Together. And then, might be sexy Sunday. You know what I'm saying? So it's and
it goes down on Sundays.
Even at church, we flirt.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you
at
flirt
church.
right in front
I
of
flirt
girls.
with him at church all the time.
Yeah.
When the choir walks past him, I'll be like, "Hey,
what's your name is?
What's your name is?" Or I'll walk up to him like I don't know him and be like, "I saw you from across the room."
Role play.
Are you married?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you married? I do that in church all the time.
Yeah, she does. That's true. She did that last 2 weeks ago.
Because I think men like being have somebody coming on to them just as much as a woman does.
It's that role play, boo. Ooh.
Yeah.
I
I got one.
Wait, we roll up side by side and I roll my window down like, what's up?
Yeah.
No, good well we married or together.
But I do that all the time.
How you doing?
You
have to keep it spicy.
It makes us both feel special. You're like, oh, okay.
So definitely keeping it spicy. Definitely that communication, flirting with each other. Anything else that you would add to that?
Yeah, I want to say this, and I want people to hear this: is that if we do disagree, we fight fair, or we agree to disagree, or you know, I don't call her something outside her name. I'm not disrespectful. I love her because she's like she said, she's my girlfriend, she's my wife, she's my little sister.
Yes.
You know, she's all the above, answer number B. So, you know, when you have an issue or a challenge, you find a safe place to talk about it. And you know, like she also said, and I want to iterate this as well, God has full reign in our household, like in every room of our home since we started doing the communion. So he does whatever he wants to in our home, and since we've been doing that, we've gotten closer. And,
I love that.
Yeah.
Love that. Well, guys, that is our time.
Wow.
Thank you so
Time
much. Thank you so much for coming. I would love to have you guys back again. But next week, Candyology is about talking to your kids about sex. It's gonna be a great
You
topic.
probably need to tune in on
Hello, thank you.
We got a little almost man. Yeah,
Right.
we got a little almost man.
All right, guys, this has been Candyology, your girl Candy J, and wishing you love-filled days and orgasmic nights. Have a good day.